For 12-year-old Angelina Reno, when she stepped up to the plate, it was magic.
Angelina is very active in sports. She always has been. Since she was 6 years old, she's played soccer, and she did dance, and she did cheerleading, and finally settled on softball at 8, and softball's been her life. She plays games every day, practices every day, and weekends sometimes she played up to 8 games. Angelina is, she's very well-rounded, and she gives 110% anytime she's on any field or any court. You know, she does strength and conditioning and speed and agility. She gives her all to every sport that she's playing.
Usually straight after school we have softball practice, and then sometimes like I would have batting at night. Keep me active. Keeps me doing something.
What Angelina's family didn't know about their daughter, her heart wasn't in the game. After a chance heart screening for her travel softball team, the Renos were given the shocking news.
Initially, when she had the testing done, there was some cause for concern.
Angelina was diagnosed with Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, better known as WPW, a rare congenital heart disorder where abnormal electric pathways exist in the heart that can trigger an accelerated heartbeat. If left untreated, it could lead to sudden cardiac death.
I never thought there was something wrong with my child. And without having a symptom, without being aware. I mean, if your child has a cold or a runny nose, you bring them to the doctor. If they have a fever, they go to the doctor. But when they're short of breath after running bases, you don't bring them to a doctor.
At the time, I didn't know what it was.
After Angelina was diagnosed, we were told what to look for, what WPW could do, and she was put on no activity. She wasn't allowed to practice anymore.
My whole world stopped. It's like on a pause.
This medical timeout may have sidelined Angelina's season, but may have saved her life. Sports-related injuries, many potentially deadly, have been making headlines in the U.S. with seemingly more frequency, concussions and hard hits that leave young athletes permanently disabled, and leaving some victim to the silent killer, sudden cardiac death.
It's a condition where people just collapse and die without any prior known condition. It's not like what we think about in older people, where they tend to have blockage of their coronary arteries, which cuts off the blood supply to the heart, and that's what we generally refer to as heart attacks. But in children, it could be from so many other causes. On
September 1st, 2014, Staten Island student-athlete 16-year-old Miles Kirkland Thomas collapsed at football practice and died. A medical examiner's report concluded Thomas's death was a result of sudden cardiac death brought on by hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a condition where the walls of the heart become thick, making it harder for the muscle to pump during heightened activity.
The only time it's picked up is when we screen them, or if they present with some premonitory symptoms, like if they feel dizzy while they're exercising, while they're playing, they present with palpitations, chest pain, shortness of breath on exertion.
Dr. Qureshi points out that sudden cardiac death is not very common, but it's the most common form of death in young athletes in the U.S. Kirkland's death on the field made headlines about the importance of cardiac screenings for young athletes, a mission that was taken up by a mother who says that one death from sudden cardiac death is too much.
April 29, 2007, the shock wave hit our family when our son Frank was found dead on the floor at the office. He had died from what we found out to be later on sudden cardiac death. In this case, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
In the wake of their son's death, the Reali family created Protecting One Young Heart at a Time, a foundation that offers free heart screenings to young athletes in memory of their son.
I found out that 400,000 young adults die each year in this country from sudden cardiac death. I spoke to about 15 different pediatricians and cardiologists and found out that the schools do not allow for their initial testing before the kids enter school, do not allow an echocardiogram and EKG due to the health insurance restraints. And so I felt that there was a void. So if we were able to pull together with partners, that we should be able to get more children tested so that parents shouldn't suffer the grief of a loss of a child.
The Realis began raising money to provide screenings to 8th graders before they begin participating in high school level sports. The foundation has screened hundreds of athletes and has identified cardiac abnormalities in students like Angelina Reno. Dr. Qureshi says a simple electrocardiogram or EKG can make all the difference in detecting these abnormalities.
Basically what an EKG is, it records an electrical activity of the heart. It tells you the rhythm, if there are any extra beats, and what kind of extra beats they have. It's a very useful tool.
In Angelina's case, her heart had an abnormal electrical pathway that can trigger an accelerated heart rhythm.
When you have these extra connections, the electrical impulses from the upper chambers of the heart have choice, or they have an extra route to go from the normal pathway versus this extra route. These conditions can trigger the heart to go out of proportion.
She was devastated. So she would go to the practices anyway, and she would sit there and just watch, sitting on the bucket and encouraging her teammates. After one practice had ended, she just walked off the field and she came out to me in the parking lot, and after doing no physical activity at all, just said, "Mom, I think my heart is doing that thing that the doctor was saying." And I put my hands on her chest, and her heart was racing. It was pounding out of her chest, and it was racing, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. There was a nurse there. I yelled for her to come over. I was panic-stricken. And I said to her, I said, "Do you feel like you're going to pass out?" And she looked at me funny and she said, "No." I said, "Do you feel dizzy?" "No." "Do you feel like you can't catch your breath?" And she said, "No." This was normal to her.
After consulting with Dr. Qureshi, Angelina was on a path to a new, normal life.
The best part is he told us it's fully correctable, 100% correctable.
Within 3 days, Angelina had an appointment at Cohen Children's Medical Center to undergo ablation, a procedure where a cardiologist uses catheters to correct the electrical impulses inside the heart.
It took her a while to get comfortable and know that she was okay and that she was cured, and this wasn't going to happen to her again.
Get your ball out, roll it like a girl, right? Come on, let it go.
She's even more active. She's in high school and playing high school softball, high school basketball. She still plays travel softball. She's very active. Her level of activity has remained the same.
With Angelina back on the mound, the Reno stressed the importance of cardiac testing.
If you have a simple EKG done, it can rule out a lot of problems that your child might have with their heart that you may not be aware of until it is too late. I think it's important that all athletes have their heart checked. I think it should be part of the standard procedure for physicals for young children who are participating in sports.